Everything you need to know about protein, you're going to get in the book tonight. Protein is the most misunderstood of the three major nutrients. Okay, so we have carbs and fats and proteins. The education and the knowledge among dietitians or nutritional scientists on protein is really like almost none. Our body is made out of protein. The basic structural components are protein. The biggest proteins in the body are collagen and hemoglobin. These are the things that the proteins that are in red blood cells, and collagen is basically the structural tissue of the body, and our muscles. Okay, these are all made out of protein. In the body, there's actually about 50,000 different proteins. So your hair, your skin, your organ tissue, your immune system, all enzymes, these are all proteins. Now the definition of a protein is it is a chain of simpler, basic particles called amino acids. Okay, that doesn't work. Amino in Greek means what? It means nitrogen. Okay? It means nitrogen. Okay? Now, a carbohydrate is made out of three things: carbons, hydrogens, and oxygens. A fat is made out of three things. This is a carb, this is a fat. Same three things.
Wow.
An amino acid is made out of the same three things plus nitrogen. So we get nitrogen in our body by eating proteins. Now, if you think of proteins and amino acids, there's 22 of them used in the human body. And this is like the letters of an alphabet. So in English language, where there's 26 letters, you can put the letters together in different combinations. Some words have only one letter, like I or A. And some words have, anti-establishmentarianism has 27 or 35 letters, whatever it is. Okay, longest word in the English alphabet. Okay? And there's probably, I don't know, somewhere between 300 and 400,000 words in the English language. If you go to the big Webster's Dictionary, it's something like that. And because you can put them together in all different combinations. Okay? There's 22 amino acids. That's the alphabet. And the simplest protein has one amino acid. It's thyroid hormone.
Oh.
So thyroid hormone is the amino acid called tyrosine. And if you put 3 iodines on a tyrosine, you get thyroid hormone. Some proteins are really super complex. Okay? So growth hormone, I think, has 89 amino acids. And they're in a very specific pattern. If it's in that specific pattern, it's growth hormone. If it's in another specific pattern, it's insulin.
Mm-hmm.
Skeletal muscle, one fiber, one basic unit of skeletal muscle, has 5,700 amino acids per one fiber. So the word is 5,700 amino acids long. Now that's complicated.
Yeah.
So you've got 100 trillion cells in your body making 50,000 different proteins 24 hours a day. Each protein is very exactly specific. It's like if we have a molecule of insulin and there's 69 or 70, something like that, amino acids. And if each of the amino acids were color-coded, let's say there's blue ones and green ones, but 22 different colors. The template in the cell, in the cell in the pancreas, to make insulin says, okay, I need a green one, put it on the string. I need a yellow one, put it on the string. I need a red one, put it on the string. It won't make the wrong one. If the wrong one, if the one that's supposed to go there isn't there, it won't make the insulin. It'll stop. Because insulin doesn't work if it's the wrong one. Okay? So you have all this going on all the time. Now, if your levels of amino acids coming in is not enough to keep up with the body's needs to continually manufacture amino acids for detoxification, digestion, enzymes, energy, hair, skin, immune cells, hormones. Then you may get where the body has like a list of backlog, 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 backlog. And the body can't keep and preserve itself. Now every time you work out or you strain or you do something like that, you need amino acids to rebuild those proteins. The proteins are also, so they can be broken by, you do a lot of pull-ups and you're sore the next day, you tore a bunch of those amino acids, they have to be repaired or replaced. So you need amino acids coming in every day to be able to do that. Okay? So if you don't do that, you don't get repair, and then you get backlog, and then the body breaks down. And then your systems aren't able to keep up, and then you're not going to detoxify as well. Or I've had some patients where if they did a little bit exertion, they were so nutritionally deficient, if they did a little bit exertion, their muscles would ache for weeks or even months.
Wow.
Because it just isn't healing. The inside of your gut turns over about every 3 or 4 days. Those lining cells are subject to chemical stress. In the intestine, there is really high level chemical reactions going on. Your stomach has a pH of 1 to 2.
Wow.
Those are the strongest acids known. Those cells have to be able to manufacture mucus and tolerate that stress. Okay? In the digestive tract itself, if everyone could just turn off their phones, that would be great. Thanks. There's a lot of chemical stress. And if the inside lining of your intestine is not replaced on time, you're going to get a leaky gut. Because the membrane is going to be open, it's going to leak. And then you get stuff from your gut coming into your body that isn't even supposed to be there, which sets off a whole nother set of reactions. So protein nutrition and protein metabolism is really important. Now, there's 22 amino acids. 8 of them are what we call essential, which means you've got to eat them in your diet. Your body can't make them. If you eat the 8, your body can make the other 14. Now, for a long time, when I was 13 years old, I was in Boy Scouts. And I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin. And the headquarters for Oscar Mayer's Meatpacking Company at that time was in Madison, Wisconsin. And they took us on a tour as part of our Boy Scout thing to go tour Oscar Mayer Meatpacking plant. And we saw animals being slaughtered there, and that's about all I could take. And I decided that and my troop leader was a vegetarian, and he talked to me about it, and I decided to become a vegetarian. Okay? The story's in the book, but much to my mother's chagrin. I have a Jewish mother, or had, and food was very important. And if I didn't eat her food, I was in trouble. So I lost car privileges for 2 years because I wasn't eating her brisket or her chicken. And I was stubborn, so I just didn't do it. Anyway, so my hobby is Ironman triathlon, so you put a lot of wear and tear on your body if you're doing a lot of swimming, biking, and running, and the things that I like to do. And I broke down, and I tore a hamstring, and I could not get it to heal. I did not realize that I was protein deficient because I was mostly eating vegetarian. And I tried everything I could. I injected it, I massaged it, I chiropracted it, I acupunctured it. I have access to everything, and I did everything, and I could not get it to heal. Every time I tried to do like a hard workout, I would feel it, and I knew that if I persisted, I was going to really tear it, and I was going to be in a lot more trouble. So I just sort of gave up on it. And one day a friend who had been overseas said, here's some amino acid tablets. Why don't you try these? Because there's some athletes that are taking them, and they're really good, and see if they help you. And so I took a couple bottles of these, and my hamstring started to feel good. And I went out to the track one day. It's about 6 or 8 weeks after I started, and I could do it. I could push it, and it didn't hurt. And I had in that 6 or 8 weeks, gained about 10 pounds, though I didn't look any different. And I called the guy who had put this mixture together, and I said, what's happening to me? And he said, well, you've been a vegetarian a long time, and your bones and your minerals and your muscles are filling in on all the backlog you've had for the last 30 years because you were nutritionally deficient, and that's why your leg didn't heal. I thought, oh, that makes sense. Okay. Now, before this, one of my patients had worked with Dr. William Donnell Kelly, who had an enzyme treatment for cancer. He was a dentist. He had pancreatic cancer himself. He cured himself with this mixture he put together of real concentrated digestive enzymes. They would almost burn a hole through the table. Okay? But they would attack cancer cells, and sometimes people got better. She was a patient of mine. She was working as an assistant to him. And so she came in one day and she said, you know, you can do a trial to see if you have brewing cancer or not. And what you do is you take a dozen of these enzymes 4 times during the day, and if you have brewing cancer, they will make you feel not so good, but then you do them until the symptoms go away, and then you've prevented getting the cancer. So I thought, okay, I'll try it. So on an empty stomach.
Brewing cancer?
Like it's coming, like it's not, like you couldn't find it in me, but they're there and they're growing. Okay? So I took 12 of these things, and then about an hour later, I really thought that I'd burned a hole in my stomach. Like, it was just massive burning, and I was drinking bicarbonate, and I was really sick. And, excuse me, I went back to her and I said, I don't think I have cancer, but I can't take these things. Okay? And that was a few years before this. So I did the amino acids. I was feeling better. I had a whole bunch of different changes besides the weight gain, as my maximum heart rate went up 12 points. One of the things I do in training is base my training on what my maximum heart rate is. And it was 174 and went 186. That was a change. And I went to Ironman Canada that year, and I'd raced that race. I'd done that race 10 times, and I had my best time ever. And I thought, wow, this is really something. And I wrote an article in Triathlete magazine about my experience, and I got 3,000 calls back.
Wow.
Because everybody in that business wants
The best.
the best.
Yeah.
Okay?
Personal best.
And so we started to formulate these amino acids. After I got this thing with the stomach, and then I was taking these and I felt better, I thought maybe my lack of stomach tolerance to these enzymes had something to do with my protein deficiency. And I went back and redid the experiment. I took 12 of those enzymes, and then at lunch I took 12 more, and before dinner I took 12 more, and before bed I took 12 more, and I did it for 3 days, and I got no reaction at all. And I thought, holy cow, this is really interesting, because in me, my body wasn't making proper stomach acid because I was amino acid deficient. I also wasn't keeping my bone health and my organ health because I was deficient in amino acids. Then I started to measure in patients blood levels of amino acids. You can do a blood test to measure the levels of these, as a fasting level of these 22 amino acids. And I found that almost everybody had deficiencies in these basic 8. It didn't matter if they ate a lot of meat and fish or if they were vegetarian. The vegetarians were all worse. Almost all the vegetarians were very deficient. Other people also were deficient. A lot of the athletes were deficient. I had a guy who was the lieutenant for Lance Armstrong in his tour days, who had gotten a diarrhea type illness, and I consulted on him. It was March. The Tour de France starts every year the first weekend after July 1st, and he was the number 2 guy. He was like the leader of the team, and he had diarrhea, and I was consulted on him, and we found a parasite, and we treated him for his parasite, but he had been very protein malnourished because he couldn't eat, and he was having diarrhea all the time. And we gave him 10 grams of these amino acids 3 times a day. And by July 1st, he was tour ready. He had his best tour. He came on board and said, I want to promote these because these are incredible things. The other experiment that we did with that team is that the tour is on right now, so if you're watching it, You can see what these guys go through. Okay? These bike rides are usually 4 or 5 hours a day. It's a lot of times it's in the mountains. It's at levels of exertion that are beyond just even imagining for your average, not only couch potato, but even your average, like, good athlete. And virtually at every team, every rider, by the end of the tour, they are broken down. They have tendonitis, they have pain, they're sore, their performance is down. And these guys have chefs, they have IVs afterwards. They were getting maximum nutrition, but their body could not keep up with the trauma that was going on from the exertions that they were doing. And so one year we had the 3 lead guys take 10 grams of essential amino acids 3 times a day during the tour, and at the end of the tour they were actually stronger than they were at the beginning. That if you give the body what it needs, and they were getting their other nutritional things too, this isn't a one thing, but the vitamins and minerals and essential fats, that they were actually getting stronger with the exertion rather than weaker. There's another very interesting published study on this about a woman. She was a race walker. She was in her 30s. No one had ever walked across the Taklamakan Desert. This is in China. It's 300 and some miles. It's desert, it's mountains. The temperature extremes go in the hundreds in the day and in the freezing at night. And no one ever had walked across it unassisted. And she walked across it unassisted in 25 days. Her only source of protein was 8 grams of perfect amino 3 times a day, then with a carbohydrate fat vitamin mixture, which she carried with her. And she also had performance tests done before she started and when she finished, and she was stronger when she finished than she'd actually gained from the exertion rather than broke down. So this is very interesting, and this isn't really very well known in dietary science, and but it's really important. Because most everybody, especially today, in order to digest protein, it's a complicated process. Like, you have to have acid in your stomach. Probably more than 50% of people age 40 or more don't make enough stomach acid. There's something like 24 million prescriptions per month of drugs to block the stomach from making acid. Nexium, Zantac, Pepsid poison the cells in your stomach, which are supposed to make acid, so that they don't make it. And if your stomach isn't acid, you can't digest protein. So if you're on one of those drugs, if by the way you look in the physician's desk reference on those drugs, it says they should be for short-term use, 2 or 3 weeks maximum.
Oh.
Most doctors are prescribing them, and now of course they're available over the counter, where people are on them for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. They increase the incidence of stomach cancer, of liver cancer, of vitamin deficiencies, of mineral deficiencies, and of amino acid and protein deficiencies, because if you can't digest it, you can't get it in. So if you imagine you're taking this, the other part of this digestion thing is most of us have intestines that don't have enough digestive enzymes, besides the hydrochloric acid, and they're overgrown with parasites and yeasts and bad bacteria, and the inner membrane of the intestine is irritated, it's broken down, and it doesn't absorb the proteins once they're digested. Now, if you have a piece of steak today, it's coming in as steak fibers, which have those 5,700 amino acids per steak fiber. It goes into your stomach, the acid gets turned on, it activates an enzyme in your stomach called pepsin. So pepsin doesn't work without acid, so you activate the pepsin with the acid. The pepsin starts chopping 5,700 into smaller chains, which might be 7, 10, 20 units long. Because you can't absorb this big long fiber, it's too big, the body won't take it in. So in the stomach, it gets chopped up into smaller pieces. It goes into the small intestine, and then there's enzymes from your pancreas, which come into the small intestine, and they finish the job so that these chains of 3 and 5 and 10 are broken down into 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So you have a big long chain of 5,700. By the time it's in your small intestine, it's 5,700 individual pieces. They are absorbed by the intestine. They go in your blood. Then they go to your cells. And then the cell has to reassemble the whole thing from cow protein into human muscle, human growth hormone, whatever the, enzyme, bone. You can imagine what's going on inside of you right now. Just take it for granted.
I know, I got that going on in my body.
Yeah,
I got the meat.
you got the meat, okay.
Yeah, it's the meat, going to my blood. Nobody can figure it out, no doctors can figure it out.
Yeah.
I've been sick for years.
Yeah. So if you take a piece of meat and you can tell how much, let's say you take, let's do whey protein, which is easier to think of. So let's for a whole day just eat whey protein. So you have 25 grams for breakfast, 25 grams for, you make smoothies, okay? So you put some fruit and some milk or almond milk or whatever you like, some powder, basically things that don't have much protein in them. And you put a scoop of whey protein, 25 grams, and you have 4 of them for the day, and that's your food. And so what you took in was 100 grams of whey protein. Now, nitrogen is 16% by weight of protein. So that would mean 16 grams of nitrogen got entered into your body. Now, if the amino acids that make up that where the nitrogen is get made into a body protein, then that nitrogen is not released by the body. It is held in the form of that protein in the body. Right? So if it became muscle or it became bone, the nitrogen that came in is an amino acid that's part of that protein. If the body doesn't use that amino acid, and there's no storage pool for amino acids, so either it gets used or the body has to get rid of it. And if it has to get rid of it, what it does is it breaks off the nitrogen. This becomes a fat or a carbohydrate. So it's energy. You've all heard the thing of how many calories per gram is a protein? 4, right? Is it really 4 if that became muscle? Is it available to burn?
Oh, no. I wouldn't
No.
think so.
It's only 4 if it doesn't become a protein.
Right.
Because then this is pulled off and now you have calories and it's going to be burned, it can be stored as glycogen or it can be stored as fat. That's where the calories are. Now nitrogen is poisonous for the body in a free form. We can't use it. So the nitrogen then goes to the liver, it's turned into urea, and then it goes into your kidney and it's peed out. That's mostly why we pee. It's to get rid of excess nitrogen. Because if your nitrogen builds up, if your kidney isn't good, if you have kidney disease, the doctor measures in your blood this thing called BUN. Blood, urea, nitrogen. So if the guy's kidneys aren't working, his BUN will go up. And if he eats too much protein, it can go up a lot. And people who are on dialysis or have kidney disease, they're told by their doctors, don't eat much protein. Because you'll put in too much nitrogen. And your body can't get rid of nitrogen. It's the same with people with liver disease. The liver makes the nitrogen into urea. And if you've got chronic hepatitis, cirrhosis, liver disease, you may not, you're also going to be on a low protein diet because you can't handle the nitrogen. Okay? Now, if I said basic unit of a car is a frame and a motor and 4 wheels and a steering wheel. Okay? A frame, 4 wheels, a motor, and a steering wheel, and we got a car. I'm pretending the car is a protein made up of 4 parts. How many cars could you make if I gave you 400 wheels, 100 steering wheels, 100 motors, and 1 steering wheel?
It's one car.
1 car. Now you have no place on your lot for anything else. You got to get rid of that other thing else. So if you eat a protein that's got a whole bunch of amino acids that the body cannot utilize to make proteins, it can't store them. It takes the nitrogen off. It turns the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen into a fat or a carbohydrate, and now it's got a nitrogen it's got to get rid of. So what's been discovered is, if you look at whey protein and you do this balance study, you could say, okay, the guy ate 100 grams of whey protein for the day. We collected his urine all day. And we know that he took in 16 grams of nitrogen. How many grams of nitrogen came out? That'll tell us how good is that protein at making his body's own protein. And what we find is that 84% of the nitrogen that went in came out. Because the amino acids that make up whey protein aren't very well utilized for humans, because the cow's milk isn't really designed for human growth, it's designed for cows. Breast milk is the highest food in ability to deliver amino acids that will be used. And breast milk, 49% of the amino acids in breast milk are assimilated into body protein. It's the highest food value. The second best is whole chicken egg. Yolk plus white. It's 48%. Still, you have 52% aren't utilized. They get turned into nitrogen.
And carbs.
Yeah, and carbs. Okay? Now, the plant proteins are all terrible. They're below 10%. Spirulina, which has been touted as like this wonder food. Look, whales eat spirulina. Look at how big and strong they are. We checked 24 species of spirulina for the balance of the, see, this is all dependent on the 8 essential amino acids and the ratios of them in the formula that you feed. Spirulina, the best out of 24, 6 of them averaged about 5 or 6% utilization, the rest of them were 0. Guess what the amino acid utilization is of collagen? Now, if you look on Amazon for what is the biggest selling nutritional supplement today, it is collagen, because it's a wonder food. Guess what the amino acid utilization is of collagen?
Maybe 5%.
It's actually 0. Collagen is missing one of the essential 8 amino acids, known as tryptophan. Also, 50% of collagen is 4 non-essential amino acids, which can't be used at all. So it's calories. It's pure calories. What about branched chain amino acids?
Yeah.
It's 3. Branched chain amino acids are 3 of the 8. Can you make a protein with 3?
No.
You can't. You need all 8. So you can't build muscle with branched chain amino acids. It's all hype. It's all just really good marketing, but no nutritional science. So a real smart guy put together a combination of 8 essential amino acids. That's what this book's about, and this is what perfect amino is, where the utilization is 99%.
Wow.
We call it perfect amino because it's the perfect balance for humans. Now, dogs, it's a little bit different. In sheep, it's a little bit different. In birds, it's different. In cows, it's different because their bodies' biochemistry is different than ours. But if you take this in, your body won't make any nitrogen, or hardly none. 10 grams is only 4 calories. So it's like nothing. There's no calories. It doesn't go to here. It stays here. And it feeds your cells because they need lots of essential amino acids in order to keep your body at a high rate of performance. or detoxification, or healing, or growing babies.
Regardless of your activity level.
Well, people who are more active may need more. But what we usually do is supplement everybody with about 10 grams a day. But if you're a Tour de France rider, you're going to take 30 or 40 grams a day. Okay? This is in addition to eating other high-value proteins, which are meat, fish, and eggs. Okay? Meat and fish are about 33% utilized. Whole eggs is 48. Breast milk is hard to get. Can't have it.
End of story.
Yeah. My daughter-in-law has 4 children, and after she delivered the first, she's going to deliver the 5th one this week. But the first one nursed for 3 years, and then the second one was born, and he was nursing, and the older guy got cut off for she couldn't do both, and so he was about maybe 8 or 10 months post nursing. And he's looking at her like, can I have some too? Because she's nursing the other baby. And so she squirted some out and she put it in a cup and she said, here, taste it. And so he takes a swig of the breast milk and he gets a big smile on his face. And she says to him, why are you smiling? What does it taste like to you? He says, it tastes like chocolate.
That's hilarious.
So what we want to do is we want to feed enough protein to keep up with your body needs. The more active you are, the more you work out. If you're post-op, if you get in an accident, if you're pregnant, if you're nursing, you need more. And like I said, almost everybody we test has deficiencies in essential amino acids because our digestive systems are so compromised today. In virtually every patient I see, whether sick or well, there is stuff going on in their intestines. There's bad bacteria, there's parasites, there's not enough digestive enzymes, there's immune stress. And so these things it's a challenge for our bodies to digest and assimilate this stuff. So the essential amino acid is a powder, it's pre-digested. We know that it's in the blood within about 20 minutes after you take it, if you take it on an empty stomach. Now, for those of you guys that are doing ketogenic diets, or you're trying to do low carb diets so you don't get insulin stimulation in your body, because proteins, like whey protein, is one of the biggest insulin stimulators known. Okay, it kicks up insulin, and one of the reasons is 84% of it is turned into a carb, and you get a blood sugar spike. So then you get an insulin spike. This perfect amino formula doesn't spike insulin, it doesn't spike blood sugar, because it's not turned into a carbohydrate. And if you're trying to be in ketosis and keep your insulin levels down and keep your blood sugar levels down, it won't affect it at all.
Will it affect intermittent fasting if you wanted to do that?
No, it doesn't affect it. There's virtually no change in blood sugar or insulin post-feeding with these amino acids.
Thank you.
Now there's one more point on this which you'll hear, because if you look in textbooks you'll see that some say that there's 9 essential amino acids, some say that there's 10 essential amino acids, that there isn't just 8 essential amino acids. So we did an experiment in our clinic where we measured, and these other 2 amino acids which are called conditional, like in babies you're supposed to give them, in older people you're supposed to give them. Conditional meaning that under some circumstances you need to give people these extra ones. In fact, Health Canada about 20 years ago said that you couldn't use this product as a single protein source because it wasn't a complete protein because it didn't have the 10 amino acids that Health Canada decided were the essential ones. So when the 2 amino acids, one's called histidine, the other one's called arginine, were added to the formula and the balance study was done, it went from 99% to 94%. It went down when you added those 2 amino acids. It isn't correct. So we have done the studies in our office where we fasted people, we measured their levels of serum amino acids and glucose and insulin. We fed them 10 grams of amino acids, there's both a powdered form and a pill form. We measured their levels of blood sugar, insulin, and essential and these other amino acids at the same time at 30 and 90 minutes. The 2 conditional amino acids spiked within 30 minutes. they went up almost 100% of their value. So the body converts it right into what it needs. So ideally, the best way to supplement is with this, because the body then will make what it needs and do what it needs. And you don't have to take another source.
So where do you get your raw material for perfect amino?
The formula was developed by an Italian scientist about 25 years ago. It was a trial and error because he was doing balance studies and was trying to figure out how could you get the formula arranged so that you could get the most utilization. And it was very arduous work to try to get this figured out, because actually the formula is in 3 places to the right side of the decimal point. It makes a difference of whether it's 99%, 90%, 80%, 60%. So it was an experimental, it was just a
So it is synthesized, right? It is
What?
synthesized.
These amino acids are a compound between extracts of pea protein. They're vegan, they're vegetarian, and amino acids can be manufactured, but they can be bioengineered by bacteria. So you can program E. coli bacteria to manufacture amino acids. You can harvest the amino acids. They're pure. You know, there's no. These are pharmaceutical grade, which means they're completely pure. And there's nothing else in them. They're just amino acids. The tolerance is very good. The people that are allergic to it are just almost never. In order to incorporate amino acids into proteins, you need also vitamin B6 and you need magnesium. So part of the thing I look at when I'm looking at amino acids are magnesium levels and B6 levels, because if you don't have enough of those, you won't make amino acids. Those are needed. But other than that, you could, if you wanted to. The developer of this product for 2 years ate only 10 grams 3 times a day of amino acids as his protein source. He's Italian, so he had pasta and vegetables and fruits. And at the time that he was doing the experiment, he went on a program where he decided to do a bodybuilding thing. And he was in his probably middle 40s at the time. And so I'm sitting at lunch with him one day, and he tells me about the experiment. And he said he gained about 25 pounds of muscle over the 2 years of doing this, that you could live on this formula alone, and that it would build muscle. And he said, feel my arm. And I reached with one hand for his arm. He said, no, you need both hands. He had a suit on, I couldn't tell, but he was big.
Can you tell about fish oil?
Well, fish oil is not amino acids, so I'm only can talk about amino acids tonight.
Where's this produced at? Is it a factory here? Is it a lab here? Is it in Italy to get the?
It's here in the United States. It's produced in the U.S.
And do people have different requirements for amino acids? You
Yes, they
notice-
do. It depends on their activity level, on their bodies. Most people.
What
if-
about the formula, though, for different amounts of different aminos? You
No,
know, depending
it's-
on their nutritional status, for example.
No, because if you use this, the body then will turn it into whatever proteins it needs. This isn't any good as a calorie source. So this isn't for calories because it doesn't get turned into calories. You could overfeed it and the body would turn it into calories. But somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 30 grams a day, depending on your activity level, the body will make it into protein. And again, each person is a little bit different. Usually I tell people, if you're under 120 pounds, probably do 7 or 8 all at once. It's better if you take them all at once, with a glass of water, a sports drink, or juice, and in 20 minutes, 22 minutes, it's in your bloodstream. If you mix it with fats, it's going to slow it down. If you mix it with other proteins, it's going to dilute it a little. So I think it's better to take it by itself. If you're over 120 pounds, take 10. I just take 10 grams every day. If you're, I'm training now for an Ironman. And on my long days, I'll take 30 grams. I'll take 30 before I start. I'll take 10 when I'm done, more, and I'll take another 10 before I go to bed. This is another really interesting thing. If you're an athlete or if you know athletes, it's very common in athletes who overtrain or who do a race or who are really exerting that they'll come down with a cold. Like after a big race, the next week, they'll get an upper respiratory infection, they'll get a cough, and most athletes know about it, they expect it. I worked out really hard, it's what happened to me. And what I found is if they load up 3 days before, they load up on the day of and 3 days after, they don't get a cold. So their body is in a broken down state at the end of whatever the activity was. It needs amino acids in mass. Same thing as you have cardiac surgery or you have an appendectomy. The body, in order to heal, is calling for massive amounts of amino acids. If you put them in, it will keep up your immune system, which is all amino acids. All of the immune particles, your antibodies and your cytokines and all these things, they're all proteins. And if you could keep them coming in, just like the Tour de France guys, enough, the body then will be able to preserve its immune system and at the same time heal whatever the chemical or physical trauma was. Yeah.
I'm trying to understand that someone that's a weightlifter versus somebody that is not, why do they use the weightlifter use the same distribution of amino acids as somebody that does not?
Well, because the basic building block of the body proteins is this. Now, there's a guy in Miami who has a really big, famous gym for weightlifters. And he was having his guys take 200 grams a day of whey protein. Now, they all had stomach problems from
Yeah, I
that.
can imagine.
You know, they were bloated, they didn't feel good, they had cramps. But he found that if he gave that dose, he could get good results on his weightlifting. These are strength athletes.
Yeah.
So I said, why don't you just cancel that? Give them 10 grams 3 times a day. Some of them, if they're bigger guys, might need 40 grams a day rather than 30. And he got better performance with this and their stomachs calmed down because it didn't bother them, but it delivered what they needed to be able to build. They were interested in muscles, tendons, ligaments.
I think that's almost the same as my question.
It is,
I was
it
asking,
is.
like, those guys are trying to build muscle. Somebody else is trying to build heart or immune system. And those are made out of different amino acids. So,
Why is
see,
the
the-
distribution the same?
Well,
Yeah.
because the basic 8 make whatever it needs.
Did you
So-
say that humans have one thing and that cows have a different pattern and other species?
Yeah,
have
but
other
if you're,
patterns, so
but
we
see,
have
if
that
you're,
pattern?
if you're building, you need enough of the 8 to make the other 14. Because if the body needs the other 14 and there's plenty of the 8, it'll make it.
But the weightlifters don't use more branched chain amino acids than someone that's not a weightlifter? Is that,
No.
that's what her question
that
is.
use
to
a
mine.
bigger
No, if
quantity.
they take branched chain amino acids, they're not gonna build anything.
Oh.
It doesn't do anything.
Okay,
The only
okay,
thing
so
branched,
that historical perception is apparently incorrect.
it's completely a lie.
Ah,
So if you take a body, what branched chain amino acids do, so what branched chain amino acids do is they are turned 100% into carbohydrates, okay? And what they found is that it would spare muscle if you took branched chain amino acids. It spares it because the body's looking for calories. It will break down its own muscle. This happens when you starve.
Yeah.
You start to break down your own muscle because you need calories.
Yeah.
So you see someone who was starved for 3 months, or the people who came out of Auschwitz, where they have almost no body structure left.
Yeah, right.
Their body was so starved of calories that it started to break down all the muscles, get rid of the nitrogen. Now it had calories, and they could use that for fuel to live.
and that's why your book is the bestseller.
Well, because this isn't known. I was invited to go to give a lecture at the American College of Nutrition. Now, this group is dietitians and PhD nutritional scientists and medical doctors. And this is the eminent nutrition group. It's the journal that everyone reads. And I was invited to go speak there. And the guy that I learned all this stuff from said, I don't think you should go there because you're going to get a hard time. And I said, why is that? He said, well, the American College of Nutrition was created to give credibility to the whey protein industry. Now, whey protein was a waste product, is a waste product in making cheese. So dairy proteins have basically 2 parts. One is casein, it gets turned into cheese, and then the whey was the liquid part, it was leftover, curds and whey,
Right.
okay? And it was being thrown away. And someone got the idea, hey, there's probably protein in there. There is. We should make an industry out of this. They financed a lot of universities to do studies to show that whey protein is healthy, it's not a problem,
And
it should be used.
highly utilized.
And it's
That's what it-
highly absorbed.
Oh,
It's not highly utilized. Okay? And they'll say 100% absorption, high value biological protein. It's all words, but none of them are utilization. Because 84% of that whey protein is getting turned into a carb and producing a lot of extra nitrogen. So a lot of studies were done, a lot of money was spent, and the American College of Nutrition, sometimes these industries create
Yeah.
kind of front groups for
Yeah.
promotion and to disseminate this information, and they do it. And he said, if you go there, you're going to get a lot of heat from these guys. It turns out it had been so long since how that originally originated, that of the 200 and some people that were sitting in that audience, when I finished this sort of with a more sort of scientific thing, like here's the study, here's what it showed, there was dead silence for like probably 30 seconds. Okay? And then the group kind of got going on, where's this, how is this, why is this, why didn't we ever learn it, where did this come from? And the next speaker actually was waylaid for 45 minutes because the audience was so sort of shocked at this information. It's still not widely known, and the myth is you take a Dannon yogurt and it says 12 grams of protein.
Right.
And you take a can of tuna fish and it says 28 grams of protein. And you take 2 slices of whole wheat bread and it says 8 grams of protein. And you go to the dietitian and she says, well, you're 150 pounds and you should have a half a gram per pound of protein per day. And so if you have 75 grams of protein per day, you'll meet your daily requirement. And okay, you got 2 slices of whole wheat bread, you got a yogurt, you got some tuna fish, and you have a chicken breast. And you met your 70 grams, and you should be fine. And there's nothing farther from the truth than that, because the value of those proteins is all different. They're not the same. And have a collagen shake just on the side for extra. You know what I mean? It's like it's not the same at all. And so what really is the essential need is what is the essential amino acid requirement per day? It's about 30 grams for an average person, if they're in the right balance. That's why I say I don't recommend this because it isn't. Proteins are fun to eat, and I'm not suggesting that this is anything other than a supplement. So eat your proteins that you like, but supplement because you're probably not getting enough. And if you go to your doctor and you want a serum amino acid panel, get the full panel. Most labs will do it, and look and see which of the essential amino acids you're deficient in. And you will, it's not 100%, but there's a good chance you will be. Yeah.
Are you still vegetarian?
No.
No? So you eat any meat?
I eat meat.
Oh, and why is that? Why did you?
Well, about 10 years ago, I was at a lecture by Lauren Cordain, who's he's pretty much the father of the paleo movement. And I looked at his stuff, and I'd forgiven Oscar Mayer by then.
Did you have any reaction?
And my mom had already passed away, so I didn't have to make her wrong anymore.
Did you have any reaction? Because I'm a vegetarian, I'm a vegan. So did you have any reaction going back?
I did. I had to get going. You have to get your body to like
Get the
learn to
enzymes
do it again,
Yeah.
Oh,
because you need more enzymes.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, this is many hundreds of people. There is some good things about vegetarian vegan. Okay, you as long as they're not eating a lot of crappy carbohydrates, which most of them do. But if you're eating plant foods which are green and whole and full of fiber, that's great. But they get deficient in essential amino acids, many times in iron, sometimes in B12, a lot of times in essential omega-3 fats. So you can do it, and if you want to be vegan, it's fine, but you got to supplement and measure your body levels of this stuff. You can take, I know lots of them are taking 20 or 30 grams of essential amino acids along with their tofu or whatever else they're eating. Soy, by the way, is the same as whey protein. It's about 16%.
What about hemp seed?
Not good. Not good at all.
I mean, not good.
Low, under 10.
Oh.
Under 10% utilization.
But they say they ask from the essential amino acids.
It is, but see, if you're supposed to have 0.3 grams of leucine per 10, and it has 0.1, then it's so out of balance with the other ones that the other ones can't get used because there isn't enough of that one. So you're restricted by the one low one in whatever you eat. And you could have gobs of other ones. That's the problem with whey protein. Whey protein is a complete protein. It has all 8 essential amino acids. But there's so many non-essential ones, and the balance of the essential ones is so out of whack that the body can only make one car with one steering wheel, and the rest of it's going to just be
So was the,
wasted.
I'm sorry, but was the woman who wrote Diet for a Small Planet on the right track?
No.
No? Wasn't she talking about amino acids?
She was, but it doesn't work.
Oh.
She was saying that if you ate beans and rice, they would complement each other. And if you ate sesame and
Milk.
garbanzo beans,
Yeah.
you would complement each other. And I think it's maybe a great idea, but if you do the balance studies on the foods, I don't know if anybody, when you start to do these things, it gets really complicated. Like,
Yeah.
how many beans per how many rice, and then
Yeah.
who is it, and everybody does this differently. There are some people, now your gut bacteria can make essential amino acids.
Huh.
The
And
good
if-
ones, the good.
If
good
you
bacteria.
have the right balance of gut, this is what happens in a cow. How can you eat grass all day long and make a cow?
A big
Or
cow.
make a whale?
Yeah.
Their microbiome is able to synthesize essential amino acids. One of the big problems with glyphosate is that the pathway by which you can make these amino acids, glyphosate blocks. It's called the shikimate pathway. Glyphosate poisons that. That's part of why it's such a dangerous thing, because it blocks the body's ability to make amino acids. So there are some people. The guy who started Vega Protein, he's a triathlete. He's a vegan, and I think he probably has just the right microbiome that he can eat a vegan diet and he can maintain his body protein. But I hardly see any of them. I think he's just very unique. Okay? I gotta cut off.